Welcome to Inspired by Design, the podcast where we explore the tools, stories, and insights to help you rediscover your authentic self and navigate life with less resistance. I'm Katie Rupert, a former hustle and grind overachiever on a thrilling and messy journey. I'd love to share what I'm learning and help others in self-discovery using human design. So, if you're seeking a way to move forward, let me be your weekly mindset coach and share stories to inspire you to action towards your unique purpose without the force or burnout.
Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Since our last episode, we had major snowstorm here in Missouri, and we had a couple days off school. I love a snow day, but it really showed me how quickly I get into that mode. You know, that mode where like you don't know what day it is, you don't know what time it is, you feel kind of blah. Does anyone else get that? Or is it just me? Well, I got there very quickly and got antsy to get back into the world and get back to work and all the things. But I hope that if you had snow, you were safe and it was enjoyable in some way. I saw the most joyful little scene, if you will. I was leaving yoga one day this week and I drove by a church and there was no less than 50 kids and parents doing sledding during the day. It was so fun. It was almost good enough that it was like I was sledding. I didn't have to get wet or cold or anything, but it was fun to see that they were out there enjoying. So I hope that you're doing something joyful and that you take time to do that. This week is so interesting. So as we transition from January to February, we're really starting to move towards spring and what we mentioned a few weeks ago, that fire horse energy of the new year. And one of the things that I've been dabbling in personally, I've talked a little bit about it on the podcast, watching the moon phases, doing a ritual around the full moon and the new moon to check in with my inner self. But the other thing that I am always looking at are what they call transits. So as the sky moves, as the galaxy moves around, right? And the moon, of course, is included in that. We get different flavors of energy that we'll experience as humans and as animals and as plants and all of that. But when that happens, I just think it's fascinating to learn about what smarter than me people that have studied transits know and talk about. With human design, part of my mentorship was learning about the transits each week. And so there was a journal entry and a prompt, and I'd learn about that gate. And I really enjoyed that process. So after the mentorship ended, I went ahead and subscribed to a calendar so I could know when the transits were happening. And I can pull that up. Like my human design software lets me see the transits of the day against my personal chart. And what that does for me is it shows me what are new energies that are not self, they're not me, but I'm experiencing just because of the way the sky is today. And it's not something that I initially thought I would really be interested in or that would affect me so much. But after testing this, just kind of like a little fly on the wall, is that true for me? Taking some of this journaling prompt stuff to heart, I have really been impressed with how accurate and consistent it is. And this could be for some listeners like, well, is that just in your head, for example? Maybe. And if that is true, that's okay. If it is the placebo effect, if you will, like I'm reading about the transits and therefore I'm looking for the flavor of that energy and how it impacts. I think whether or not it was true, it's really valuable to consider these things consistently, just like the moon, right? So by the way, we have a full moon coming up in the sign of Leo, creativity, fun, child, like bringing that inner child out. That is happening on Sunday, the 1st. So if you're listening to this when it comes out, there's still time. And most likely, if you're listening to it anytime close, you could still contemplate this. So for example, you're thinking about like, what is it, since it's a full moon, what is it that needs to be burned away to make room for something new? What is it that I need to release, purge from my life? And because of all the current energy of the world, this could be something you do physically. Like, I want to purge my office. I want to clean something out. You could have that sense of nesting and let yourself go to that. Or maybe you need to let go of some old wound from your childhood if you want to go real deep on it. So this is really fascinating to me, the transits. Now, there's human design transits. That's what I've been talking about. And there's also the astrology. And I have a podcast that I listen to every Sunday that talks through the transits that are coming through the week and what they mean. So I've learned a lot over the years just by being a listener and studying this stuff and then seeing if it makes sense for me. And one of the things that happened in this week is Neptune moving into Aries. And I always take some notes on my calendar. So I've just pulled up my calendar and I write down little notes for myself. So on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, this is Jessica Lanyata, by the way. I'm giving her all the credit because that's who I listen to. She said, okay, Mars is conjunct to Pluto. We've got Neptune moving into Aries. And by the way, you don't have to know what that means, although I think it's fascinating to learn. I'm not going to go over that here, but I wrote down, have courage over defensiveness. So her prompt was, notice if others or yourself are feeling a little defensive, because Mars and Pluto, they both govern war. So choose your battles with care. This could be something like control issues or power struggles. And you might be prone to repress some emotions so that you don't cause a fight if you're a people pleaser. And maybe just notice your reactions this day. Well, being proactive about that is great, like hearing about it, like, oh, okay, so if people are defensive this week, then maybe I'll just have a little more grace for them. But what I find, and what happened to me this week again, usually does, is like, for example, Tuesday, I was like, am I feeling like this? This is a weird day. I don't know about today. And I'm like looking for something wrong, right? And I opened up my calendar at one point, I think it was the next day, and I said, oh, well, I can reflect and take the advice. Where can I have more courage? Where can I let go of where I was feeling defensive? Where did I have some kind of struggle that didn't even exist? I just made it up in my head, which that's on brand for me, like overthinking things. So anyway, I think it's fascinating, very interesting. So I'm dabbling in learning about this, and I like to take things that can go in depth, right? Like these people that I learned from, they have these credentials and they've really studied it and they want to know what every little thing means. And I'm curious about that. But what I'm fascinated by is how I don't have to know. But if I use the journal prompts and if I consider some of the meanings of what they're saying, like just take all of the jargon away, take all of the human design language away, all the astrology language, all of the woo-woo language, and just be like, practically speaking, how is it that I can use this information and it's not just information? And that's what I do all of my readings around too. If you've done a reading with me, you absolutely have heard me say, you don't need to believe this, and you don't need to know what any of these numbers mean. You don't need to remember anything, but if you can take away something, a fresh approach, something to try on, a little practical life hack that you can try this week and just see if it's supportive to work with your energy, then I call that a win. If you feel like you have permission, it's not just information, but something you can, I want to say take action on, but it's really shifting and experimenting more than it's taking action on it. So we're going to be living our lives anyway. So if there's something that feels like resistance, if there's something that's like, oh, I feel a certain way and what's wrong with me? If you do that, that's one flavor of it, right? Like I typically, when something's off, I'm like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? That's just old patterns that come up automatically. But we can use things like human design and astrology, the transits of the week, and just ask ourselves better questions. And let it be a really practical, well-rounded, smart way to approach our lives and approach our weeks with care, with kindness, with self-love. So let me give you the example, because we are in Human Design Gate 19. Again, you don't need to know what gate 19 means. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about it. So, what's helpful to know about this flavor of energy that we're all experiencing, whether it's something that you were born with this gift or this flavor of energy, or you don't have it at all. For me, I don't have this in my chart, but this week I'm experiencing it. So I can experiment with it. And that's what I'm offering to you if you so choose. So gate 19 is called approach and wanting. It is in the root center. And what you want to know about the root center, you might feel a little more pressure and you might feel a little more emotional. So if by the time you're listening to this, maybe you've cried and you usually don't cry. That's been true for me. If you're feeling a little more emotional or the pressure to like go and do something and like fix relationships or figure out, why am I feeling this way? Why am I sad? Why am I crying? If you're pushing yourself to figure out what's wrong, or maybe you're feeling more sensitive than normal and you're trying to blame it on something, you can blame it on sky, right? But basically the energy of this week is all about loving and nurturing. As simple as that. You could ask yourself, like, where are you doing a great job at loving and caring for yourself? Where are you nurturing relationships that you want to maintain this year? What is it that is making me feel like I need to do more or to figure things out? And one of the like low frequency, the unhealthy ways that this gets expressed, and this is very common for people that are experiencing this transit, but it's not something they experience all the time, doing things for other in order to feel loved and accepted. It's very commonsensical, right? Like we want those things. We want to be loved and accepted. But this week, maybe it's just feeling a little more urgent. There's a little more pressure to feel that way. And so we try to do things to make that happen. And there are some questions you can ask. So if you're so inclined, why don't you answer these questions? I can be paused. Am I honoring my own needs within my relationships? Am I asking for what I want and need? Am I taking responsibility for my role in my relationships without overdoing it? So what you can expect to experience, and you probably already are, is that you've got this heightened awareness of needs, especially if those needs were learned in your childhood or minimized. For example, let's say your parents said, well, don't cry about it. And even though I'm sure that parent meant well, what might happen to a kid is, oh, I shouldn't cry. My parents are uncomfortable when I am upset. And sometimes kids just interpret things, and so do adults, honestly. But sensitivity increases here because safety and support are trying to balance themselves out. They're trying to do this balancing act so there's not, feeling unsafe or unsupported, but feeling safe and supported. And how do those balance out inside of you? And so this parent that innocently was like, oh, don't cry. And the kid interpreting that, like we can't control how people interpret what we say. But this week, we are aware or have access to being aware that, oh, I'm just not expressing what I need because way long ago, that sweet little child inside of me, or when, baby Katie decided based on one experience that it wasn't really safe to cry because she didn't want to burden her parents. Okay. That's what we're talking about. It doesn't have to get more complex than that. But if now that I'm adult, I can say, oh, well, that makes sense. Sweet baby Katie, you can cry. We've grown up, and I've learned that what they actually meant from what they said was that I love you and you're safe. You don't even need to be sad. But if you are sad, it's okay. And so letting her cry, letting her emote, letting her figure out how to feel safe when she is crying. One more question for reflection. What need feels vulnerable to admit, even to yourself? When I saw that question contemplating right when we started into Gate 19, I had this eye-opening moment. It always feels like magic. So I'm like, oh my gosh, how is this so accurate? But it's exactly what I needed. I was having a bit of an emotional second, all right? And one of the things that I was ruminating on, I was just like overthinking. I went back to some old journals. Part of the astrology of the week was that we already had this transit late March of last year. And so one of the prompts was think about what's going on March, April, May. How were you feeling? What was happening in your life? You might have some of those same issues and things pop up so that you can decide, have I learned the lesson that I needed from them? Or is there something more that I need to learn or release? And then I could do that for the full moon. Hopefully that makes sense. But for me, it really stopped me in my tracks. I was like, oh, I am kind of feeling some of these ways. And in the dark, the quiet of my bedroom, after journaling and thinking and doing all this stuff in the mind, I finally said out loud to myself, I think I'm scared. I'm excited about the changes coming in my life, but I was having this vulnerable moment of, oh, I don't know what's going to be happening, even though I can plan and try to make my life work out the way I want it to. At the end of the day, there's a lot of unknown. And my answer to this question was my need to feel safe and secure about like where I live and how I make money, and being scared of that, even though I am a coach and I know how to not let money have a hold on me and not have a scarcity mindset, like all of these things I practice and I do the work on. There was still this little nugget of fear inside of me, and there still is. And it's okay to have the fear. But what this Gate 19 offers and how I'm interpreting it personally as I share vulnerably with you is, Katie, it's okay to be scared and still take action towards the life of your dreams that you are creating actively. It's okay that you don't know exactly what's next, because you've got this. You can trust yourself. And saying that out loud to myself and just reassuring myself is exactly the healthy side of Gate 19, the energy that I have access to that I normally don't. But this week, I had just this little bit extra to be able to say, you know what? It's going to be okay. And I said it to myself. I wasn't looking for someone else to say it, for someone else to come and rescue me or do something for me to make me feel like I was cared for and nurtured. It gave me the ability to do it for myself. Okay, let me know how that feels, if that makes sense, and if that resonates for you. And the other thing I wanted to share today is a quote. I did this on a reel, but I wanted to unpack it just a little bit. And it doesn't necessarily go along with the transits, but it really stopped me in my tracks, and it was part of this week. So for me, it was part of the whole energy of the week. Okay. I had a friend send me a YouTube video and said, hey, I'm thinking of you when I watch this. So I'm sending it to you. So I always take that not as coincidence, but as this was meant for me. So thank you, Matt. And it was just a little like interview with Rick Rubin, it's a musician. And he said, I am the only one who can make the art that I make. And the other quote that I loved from that little YouTube video is, the audience comes last in service of them. I am the only one that can make the art that I make. And that quote stopped me because I remember, I think it was Leslie Logan that said, like, I am the only one that can do exactly what I do the way that I do it. And that was a mantra that I stuck with me, still does. I think about it a lot when I'm second guessing myself or in my head and thinking like, oh, other people have podcasts, other people do human design, other people do whatever. And the lie that I have told myself in the past, like, people are already doing this. No one's going to be interested in your way, Katie. Okay. But this quote stopped me because when it comes to this podcast, when it comes to the way that I teach yoga, when it comes to the way that I run my Pampered Chef business and that I do human design readings and Reiki and coach people and all the other things that I do, right? The art piece, the creative piece that I'm uniquely designed to do, I'm the only one that can do it. So if I try to be like someone else, or I lie to myself and say I am like someone else, that stifles my creative energy. And yes, it feels vulnerable to put myself out there and do it my way and potentially have people think, well, I don't like the way she does it. But that's actually exactly what I'm wanting. I want people to see or hear or experience my work, my creations, my art, if you will. And I want them to experience it in the most authentic way that I possibly can give it to you. All from me, all from the things that I've learned and the exact ways I've learned, the things I've remembered from the teachings that I've done. I put those together and it becomes authentically me. And the second quote there, the audience comes last in service of them. That one really stuck with my heart because I needed that as an affirmation. The exact way that I make my art, the exact way that this podcast comes together, it's not like anyone else's. And I think about how can I make this me? And I will always have the questions. Did it make sense? Are they going to think I'm stupid? I'm still going to have those little voices, those limiting beliefs that have those deep grooves in my brain. However, the more I stick to what feels right to me, and I don't feel like I'm softening my message or doing something because I'm worried that about someone else, my audience, for example, I'm worried about what they're going to think, or I'm trying to tailor my message to be received by them the way that I want them to receive it, trying to control how others hear me or receive me or respond to me. That doesn't serve my audience at all. That doesn't serve the listeners of this podcast. The reason why you're here or why you'll stay and listen to episode after episode is because there's something about the unique exact way that Katie does it that you're ready to hear, that you wouldn't want to hear me regurgitate some other way. You wouldn't want me to try to accommodate for you because the way that I'm saying it, maybe it's to stretch your mind or to stretch your comfort zone because of the way I am sharing it. I don't know the outcome. And that's my point is I can't be attached to the outcome. And that quote from Rick Rubin, the audience comes last in service of them. Because if what they're getting isn't authentic from me or Rick in this case, it's not going to be its very best. And then that leaves me with knowing that my very best may not be what you need. And that still serves my listener because we don't need lip service. We don't need people accommodating us. We need to be able to live our lives and select or deselect things that are going to serve us right now for this moment. And all of that is okay. And there's nothing wrong with it. So, I don't know. That is just what I wanted to share today. I thought it was beautiful. And all of that in 1 week. How cool is life, right? Like being able to take information or prompts or stories or quotes and apply them practically and immediately to my life, and it improves it, and I feel more fulfilled. And then I get to share it with you, and you can then interpret it and apply it to your life in a practical way, and it supports you. Oh, it's like I want to sing the circle of life. That's like Lion King stuff, guys. It's really beautiful. Okay, as we wrap up, I want to remind you that I've got this giveaway for Valentine's Day. It's only a couple weeks away. So if you share this episode, if you refer someone, if you go ahead and book your reading, if you sign up to do any of the events I have coming up, I'm working on my website. So go and look at it. You can say, oh, I remember when your website looked like someone that didn't know how to do websites put it together. Go and look at it because I'm doing it all on my own. But all the events coming up, I mean, there's so many things. I'm not going to go through all of them, but a couple of highlights. I'm doing a couples immersion experience where you can get a connection chart reading with your partner, spouse, and you have a full spa day, a workshop to learn how to use massage with your partner. It's just going to be so, so good. And that is, I think there's one spot left for one of the dates, and then there's a couple open for the others. But take a look at that if that's a cool Valentine's Day experience that would sound good to you. Lots of value that you can use for the rest of your relationship. And I'm also partnering with Barbara Ann Spa for a spa day. So self-care is a theme right now, and you deserve it. So then give yourself that gift. That's coming up on February 9th. There's also going to be, I had Jamie talk about this a few weeks back, this enchanted tea party on April 12th. Those tickets are going on sale really soon, and I cannot wait for that event. I have a few workshops coming up. I want you to get lots of entries for this giveaway. First of all, be part of our discussion, claim your entries, share, rate, and review the podcast, book your reading, or any of those events, and you have entries. Please share this message with anyone that you think would appreciate it. And I am so grateful for you. Until next Friday, have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to Inspired by Design with Katie Rupert. If today's episode sparked something in you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your takeaways, subscribe, or even leave a review to help others find the show. For more tools and insights, visit my free Facebook group. And until next time, keep embracing exactly who you are and move forward one inspired action at a time.